It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome in. It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Happy to be with you as always, a Saturday at Augusta. And a lot of chaos in the NBA last night, trying to go through tiebreaker scenarios. It's been a lot of fun. NHL full day, baseball, and most importantly, we haven't seen him all week. Vinny Magliulo back on set at the end of the program, Alex White.
Looking forward to this one. It should be a great show. We will try to simplify the NBA as best we can, but it is very complicated.
Do you want to do it? I'll just leave the set. I'll let you do the whole thing. It's fine with me.
No.
We'll bring Sean up here. Let him do it. They'll be even more confused than we already were.
No, I think you got it.
I hope I got everything. I have the tabs open on my laptop. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yes.
But first, let's go to Augusta. So early action underway for Saturday. Yesterday afternoon was just a disaster in the way of scoring. It just really, really difficult conditions. The wind was bad. The cut line got all the way to +6.
Yes.
So it just shows just how difficult it was at Augusta yesterday. But we entered the weekend with a 3-horse race at the top. 3 guys at 6 under par. Max Homa, Bryson DeChambeau, and, of course, the pre-tournament favorite, Scottie Scheffler, all at 6 under. Rasmus Højgaard at 4 under. Cam Davis and Colin Morikawa at 3 under. That's a name we haven't said much in majors recently. And then Ludvig Åberg, who is making his first appearance at Augusta, is 2 under par. So that rounds out your top 7. Yeah, top 7. They're a good collection of folks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players at 1 under par. So that's your top 15 right now at Augusta. Alex, we were talking about it before the show started. Scottie Scheffler at most books that offered +120 to win the Masters, the second green jacket in 3 years it would be for Scheffler. I think that's a pretty reasonable price if you want to take a shot at it.
I agree. You're still getting plus money with the best golfer in the world right now, and he looks very dialed in. You mentioned it, though, yesterday, very ugly, up to 45-mile-per-hour winds, very tough round for most of these golfers. So today it is technically moving day, a lot of movement we could see coming up here. Only 14 players were under par going into this day. So I do think we'll see some guys really improve their score at least, but I think Scottie is the favorite for a reason, and ultimately I think he wins his second Masters in 2 years.
By the way, I picked the wrong Højgaard twin. Nikolai Højgaard, not Rasmus Højgaard. Nikolai Højgaard, the one that's 4 under par. Very important distinction, even though I'm pretty sure Rasmus was not on the field. So Nikolai Højgaard is in the next to last group with Scheffler today. Homa and DeChambeau are in the final group today, which means any sort of tie at the top involving Scheffler, if it's a 3-way tie, Scheffler would go into the final group tomorrow, regardless of who it happens to be tied with up at the top. All I will say is, just looking at this, the only bet that I would actually consider making right now would be I would go with a +150 on Cam Davis to finish top 10 that's available. I think that's pretty reasonable. He's played very well so far this week. This is just one of those, as always, with Cam Davis, the consistency. If it can, very inconsistent round 2, but he ended up at 72, ended up even par. Again, played in the wrong side of the day. So again, very difficult conditions yesterday. It seems to be nicer there today at Augusta. After again, yesterday was just, the wind was so brutal. Today, it is not as bad. Still a little windy, about 10, 12 mile-an-hour winds, 71 degrees. Tomorrow, just so you're getting out ahead of it, tomorrow just looks absolutely perfect. 78 degrees, light wind. So tomorrow, the conditions are ideal for a Masters Sunday.
I'm sure after yesterday, the golfers will be very pleased with the conditions even today, because it was pretty ugly out there. But South Point does have some head-to-heads here as well. I would look at Xander. Yeah, maybe if you don't already have Xander at all outright or top 10, which I know a lot of people actually did and liked him going in here. He started bad. I mean, I think he had a double bogey, and then he was just catching up the whole time the last 2 days. But I think he's played a lot better than his score says. He is -130 here over Brooks Koepka And then I was a little off on John Rahm yesterday. He had a very tough day, but still you're getting even money with him if you like him over Rory McIlroy, who has not looked great off the tee in this tournament. So I would lean to Rahm there, having a better day. We won this a year ago, of course. So excited about the next 2 days and what unfolds here. But you're right, we do have a 3-man race at the top. Max Homa looks very good. I think Bryson DeChambeau, we're still kind of expecting to see him fall back, but I mean, he did his job yesterday and hung in there.
Wind with the potential to pick up on the back 9 today, more so than anything.
You are right. Yes.
That's usually going to be the case if there's going to be significant wind at Augusta National. Again, Tiger tied 22nd right now, easily making the cut. So you already have a win in your bank there, Alex. 1 over par, tees off in about 40 minutes from now in Augusta. And he's playing with Tyrrell Hatton today. That's an interesting combination.
I think that's it for me with Tiger's bets.
Yeah, there's no reason to hop in anymore.
No, and after 23 holes yesterday, we don't know how he's going to hold up today, but he did look good and very consistent throughout the first 2 days. Any big surprises for you not making the cut?
I mean, the way Justin Thomas imploded and missed the cut was ugly, more so than anything. I mean, look, Dustin Johnson was bad. Jordan Spieth always has the ability to blow up, so I'm never surprised by anything Spieth does. If he comes out, if Spieth was in that collection of the guys at 6 under par, I wouldn't have been shocked. Spieth missing the cut doesn't shock me. It's so much variance with the way that he plays. Again, Dustin Johnson finishing in the bottom 5, like that's jarring. And again, this was pretty awful weekend, all things considered, for the live golfers. Again, they got a little bit bailed out with a lot of guys getting through to the weekend because the cut line got so high. But it's been an ugly weekend other than Bryson DeChambeau, who, of course, is tied for the lead right now.
You're right. That is a great point. And we were looking at a lot of those live golfers going into this tournament. Joaquin Niemann, big name that a lot of people threw out there. I also have a small ticket on him. Great the first day, not so good yesterday. We'll see what he can do today. And Brooks Koepka barely made it in the cut. But Jordan Spieth, I was more shocked with all of the support for him going into this weekend because we know he has a wrist injury, and you can see that it's clearly bothering him. So, yeah, I was pretty shocked with people actually taking a shot at him. Like you said, a little inconsistent, never know what to get, and a wrist injury on top of that.
We'll keep you updated as we go along. And the leaders do not go off until about 11:45 out here on the West Coast, 2:45 local in Augusta. So we'll keep you updated, at least on the early goings. If someone makes a run, someone at least gets back into the mix. But 3-headed monster right now. Homa, DeChambeau, Scheffler, 6 under par right now, leading going to Saturday at Augusta. All right, let's go to the NBA. There are no games today, but to help you out on potential future bets, potential bets for tomorrow, there are not many lines up right now. There'll be some that pop up throughout maybe our show, but maybe later in the day. So let's start you with which chaotic sequence do we want to start with? I think we'll just start with the simplest one, which is the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Minnesota last night handles their business. They get it done. They win last night against Atlanta. Wasn't easy. Win by 3. The Thunder last night beat Milwaukee, who rested their guys by 18. And then the inexplicable one, up by as much as 23 in the third quarter. The Denver Nuggets somehow, as a gigantic favorite, lose in San Antonio by 121-120. Wemby again, just hand the man his rookie of the year, and honestly, the defensive player of the year as well at this rate for Victor Wembanyama, who is, by the way, Alex, by the end of next year, will be a top 3 player in the NBA. I feel pretty confident in saying that. San Antonio with that massive upset last night, which to me now puts Denver in a scenario where I would just, you know what, we're going to punt the final game of the regular season because the matchups for Sunday, Oklahoma City plays Dallas, who Dallas, as we figured out earlier, is locked. They can't move. They're the 5 seed. They're going to rest their guys more likely than not on Sunday.
Right.
They're playing the Clippers in round 1. Though Timberwolves are playing Phoenix, who has a mountain to play for, where if they were to win, if Phoenix were to win and New Orleans were to lose to the Lakers, the Phoenix Suns would get out of the play-in scenario and get the 6. New Orleans needs a win to hold that 6 seed. We'll get to New Orleans in a little bit because they're in the mix as well with that play-in scenario. So the easy way to do it, Oklahoma City is the top seed if all 3 teams win or lose.
Correct.
Oklahoma City is going to be a big favorite against Dallas playing their backups. Minnesota is going to be a small favorite at home against Phoenix. And the Nuggets, I don't know what that line's going to be because it all depends on what they end up doing. If they play their guys, they'll be big favorites. If they don't play their guys, it could be a pick. It could be something along those lines against one of the worst.
It is pretty crazy. This marks the first time in league history in which 3 teams through 81 games all have the same record and a chance to capture the 1 seed.
That's pretty wild.
Yes.
It's pretty wild, to say the very least.
But as you mentioned, the Thunder, I mean, they do hold the 3-way tie over Minnesota and Denver, so they just need to take care of business tomorrow. But and they covered every number yesterday. I thought it was pretty outrageous. They got up to about 15.5 over the
Got
Bucks.
it easily.
Yep.
The one thing, though, just to throw the caveat in there, if Denver loses, this is a different thing now. Because if Denver loses and Minnesota and Oklahoma City both win, Minnesota gets the 1, Oklahoma City gets the 2, and then Denver gets the 3. So there are other scenarios, but again, I think it all is going to depend on what Denver decides to do. Will they play their guys? I don't think they will. I don't think it makes much sense. They could end up very easily in a scenario where Denver's backups could beat Memphis. We know this. Memphis is a bad basketball team, even though they gave the Lakers their best shot last night. All right. In the Western Conference play-in scenario, okay?
Correct.
This one is a little more simplistic, where
You mentioned the Suns already.
the Suns win on Sunday and New Orleans loses to the Lakers. It would be Phoenix 6, New Orleans 7, Lakers 8. And then it would depend on the results. The Kings have the tiebreaker on the Warriors. So if the Kings and the Warriors have the same result, Kings would host Golden State in the 9-10. If Golden State were to win and the Kings were to lose, then Golden State would host the game, but that would be the easy scenario. The interesting one comes.
Well, let me stop you right there
Yeah.
really quick. So there's no reason to think New Orleans is going to sit anyone. They need this
New Orleans
win.
has to play everybody. Yeah, I mean, that is for all the games tomorrow. And again, all the East games are at 1 o'clock Eastern time. All the West games are at 3:30. Or all the games that are hosted by a West team, I should say, are at 3:30 because San Antonio and Detroit are playing each other, which is just, oh my God, what a horrible game for the last game of the season. Maybe we bet the over in that game.
Yeah.
To
like
end the
that.
year. So Pelicans and the Lakers are playing each other. Phoenix is playing Minnesota, which obviously we've already mentioned. Minnesota's still with a legitimate shot at the 1 seed.
Phoenix trying to get out of the play-in spot.
Phoenix trying to get out of playing spot. Those are the 2 games tomorrow that really stand out to me as the primo games of the day, where, again, it'll be interesting to see where that Phoenix-Minnesota line comes. I'd actually think I'd lay Minnesota, assuming they're a small favorite. Lakers, New Orleans, I don't know what I would do with. I think that just stay out. Again, you're talking about a team that, yes, they have been in this sort of scenario the last few years. They made the actual playoffs out of the I think they were the 10, weren't they? 2 years ago and made it all the way, or they were the 9. They beat San Antonio in the 9-10 and then beat the Clippers and then got into the actual playoffs 2 years ago. Last year they came up short in a play-in scenario, losing to OKC. You're New Orleans. You know the importance of getting out of this, but it is also LeBron in a game where if the Lakers win, they stay in the 8.
Right.
And that's a gigantic difference because if they were to lose and end up in a tie with Golden State and the Kings, they would fall back. So They're one game clear right now. That's the big difference right now in that 8-9 in the Western Conference. All I will say, Alex, just to put a bow on the West before we go to the East, where 4 through 8 is really the bigger chaos. 1, 2, 3 is, or excuse me, 2, 3, 4 is, all right, Milwaukee's probably going to sit their guys. We'll just see what the Knicks and the Cavs end up doing. I will say this. When these lines come out for tomorrow, they'll very much be looking to lay Minnesota, assuming we're not having to lay more than 5. I think 5 is probably too much. And I think I'll actually be looking at New Orleans. I know it's hard to go against LeBron in a big, again, it's a regular season game. But in New Orleans, I just think is the better full basketball team at this point than the Lakers. I would look to lay a short price with New Orleans in that one in the 2 important games tomorrow. Again, these are starting to look like playoff games. So it's a little bit different, obviously, than what we've been dealing with for the last 5 months.
Right. And Zion Williamson has been playing very well.
Yeah,
so we
good.
do have a big body down there that can handle AD. But really good games tomorrow. Like you said, already kind of getting in playoff mode.
Now the fun, the Eastern Conference scenario. So the matchups that matter tomorrow in the East. We already know in the Eastern Conference that Boston's getting the 1. We already know that the Bulls are going to host the Hawks in the 9-10. Other than that, nothing else is settled. We know who the teams are involved here, but none of the seeding is settled. The Bucks are playing tomorrow against Orlando. A very important game for seeding in the East. The Knicks are playing the Bulls. Knicks have a chance to move up. Bulls are playing for nothing. The Cavs are taking on Charlotte, who's obviously awful. The Philadelphia 76ers are taking on the Nets, who have had a rough year and will miss the playoffs. The Pacers are taking on the Atlanta Hawks, already locked in to their 10th seed. And the Miami Heat are taking on the Toronto Raptors, who have already missed the playoffs. Alex, the biggest reward, I would say at this point, and this actually goes with Milwaukee. This is really a Milwaukee question more so than anything. Where right now the only book that I see that has a number on this game has Orlando 4.5-point favorites at home against the Bucks. If Orlando wins, they get the 5. It doesn't matter what happens behind them. If they win, they get the 5. So, well, actually, that's not 100% true. If Orlando wins, they're more likely than not to get the 5. There's one scenario where it would push them to the 6, but it's one where Indiana would have to lose, and that would be a surprising result.
Right.
If you're Milwaukee here, obviously Giannis is not playing, still dealing with that calf. You just sit your guys here and risk the chance to fall from 2 to 4, which would give you probably an easier first-round matchup playing these Magic in the 4-5, but would then lead you to playing Boston 1 round sooner, which some would argue that may actually help Milwaukee. I don't know if I buy that argument, but some would say that.
I don't know. That is a very interesting way to look at this because you're right. The way that Orlando has been playing, you would want that matchup first, definitely, if you were Milwaukee, but that does lead you to playing the 1 seed in the Boston Celtics, assuming that they beat the play-in team. But I don't think so. I think they were going to play their guys and try and secure that 2 seed definitely here. But I mean, they could end up facing the Sixers or the Miami Heat right off the bat. So it's a tough call, definitely. But we do need to look into it because the Sixers, they extend their streak, which we talked about yesterday. Won 6 in a row, covered 6 in a row with Embiid back. Now they make that 7 here. But Embiid, I didn't watch that game yesterday.
He did tweak the leg. He's fine. He came back. But had a Euro that didn't look particularly great. Went back to the locker room. He's all right, though.
Okay. So just a little thing I wanted to check on before we finish this conversation. But yeah, in my opinion, Jeff, I think that they play their guys right and try and secure the 2nd seed.
Yeah, it's a weird mix for Milwaukee when it's all said and done on this. All I will say is for the Eastern games tomorrow, I have no problem. With laying the lumber in some of these games. I really don't. Now, the one caveat with this is if you're a team that's chasing, and let's say if you're the Sixers and Orlando is up by 18 in the fourth quarter and Indiana's up by 16 in the fourth quarter, if you have the game in hand against Brooklyn, you're probably going to pull guys out.
Right.
You're probably going to say, all right, we're going to sit Embiid. If we have to put him back in to make sure we win the game to hold the 7, we'll do it. But if they're in control, they could pull the reins back a little bit, with especially Embiid obviously coming off a significant injury. So that's the only thing to be a little bit wary of tomorrow on these East games.
With covering the spread is what
Correct.
you're saying.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
By the way, Miami still could move all the way to 5. Where they would need a lot of help to happen. But look, Miami, again, a year ago, an 8 seed, making it all the way to the finals this year. Again, this is actually a pretty good playoff field when it's all said and done.
Yes,
If Miami
is.
wins tomorrow, and assuming the Bulls and the Hawks, the winner of that game doesn't pull an upset, realistic opportunity where everyone in the bracketed playoffs could be 10 games over 500 or better in the NBA. Has not happened very often through the years that we could get this type of quality top to bottom in both conferences, which, again, I still think in the end, Alex, if I were Milwaukee, I know it is backwards thinking. You lose the 2, you would have to go on potentially on the road to a road for multiple series in the Eastern Conference. Falling to the 4 seed and playing Orlando is not a bad thing. It really is not. Because if you look at those teams behind them,
Yeah.
Philadelphia with Embiid, I actually think I would take the Sixers in that series with Giannis banged up. Indiana has matched up great with Milwaukee through the year.
Yes.
And Miami, other than when the Bucks won their title, Miami has beaten Milwaukee basically every single time in the playoffs they played the last half decade. So I know it's maybe it's too much alternative thinking here from me. But getting the 4, playing what I perceive to be Orlando is clearly the weakest playoff team in the Eastern Conference, may not be a bad thing for Milwaukee, even if you have to see Boston 1 round earlier, which, you know what? Boston draws the wrong 8 seed. Could be a very difficult series in round 1 for Boston. I'm not saying they're going to lose, but if they have to play Miami or Philly, it won't be the easiest of series for the Boston Celtics, Alex.
That is a great point. I kind of let the other teams beat each other up, and then you just have to try and take down the Celtics to get to the conference championship here. But we'll see what happens. That line tells me that the projected line and the early one out there tells me that they will be playing. But we shall see what happens.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to the ice. A big one starts momentarily in New York.
Yes.
Again, the Rangers and the Islanders already played once this week. Isles hammered them.
Yes.
An opportunity for the Rangers to give some payback at MSG. And Alex will have a few more hockey plays to get to when we get back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
From the South Point Studio, the perfect blend of sports,
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
comedy,
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
I am beautiful.
and a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Join Ryan McCormick,
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Rio.
and host Frank Nicotero.
I look at the clock. I go, ah! Ah!
Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. The site. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White, alongside as always. Alex, to the ice we go. A full Saturday in the NHL. Vegas Golden Knights last night with just an absolute thumping of the Wild clinch the 8th and final playoff spot in the West. So we know the teams. We just don't know where they're going. There's a big one tonight between Edmonton and Vancouver, where Edmonton, don't look now, but they are not dead in the race to win the division still out in the Pacific. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But let's start in Manhattan, starting in about 5 minutes from now. So get your bets in quickly. The New York Rangers taking on the New York Islanders earlier in the week at UBS in Elmont. The Islanders got out to a 3-0 lead right away. Hold on, 4-2. The Isles needed OT to beat the Canadiens on Thursday. But the Isles right now are in really good shape to make the postseason. 3 points clear of the 8-seeded Penguins. A win today for the Islanders would make it very, very difficult for the Penguins to catch them. But the Rangers are favored today. Not much of a shock there. Some late movement here. Got as high as $1.70, went down to $1.60 on the Rangers, now back to $1.65 at MSG today. And how about your 5.5 on the total, Alex White?
Yep, that's exactly where I'm looking, Jeff. I'm going over that 5.5 here. These two, in the last 5 times they've played each other, it's gone over that total. The Rangers have a trend going, 11 of their last 13 games. So it's pretty amazing because as good of a goalie as Shesterkin is, his over-under is still 29 and 21 to the over with a 91% save percentage. So the Rangers just get out there, they score quickly, and these two against each other, we've already seen it. So I lean to the Rangers. You mentioned it. We have revenge there. I made them about 185 over the Islanders, but I don't fault you if you like that plus money because the Islanders are playing very good hockey right now. But best bet for me is over that 5.5.
Over 5.5. Game starts in 5 minutes. Get it in right now if you want it. Again, we don't see many 5.5s anymore in the NHL. It's not, at least in the regular season. I know we'll get some starting next weekend.
You're right.
When the playoffs start a week from today. But regular season-wise, we don't see many 5.5s anymore. It was a lot more common even just a year ago.
Right, and I think because of the goalie matchup that this is set at 5.5, but you have to take into consideration the offensive power from both sides.
Yeah, 3 5.5s today, by the way. Florida and Buffalo, another one, and then Anaheim and the Kings.
The Kings, yep, are great under.
Makes sense.
Yes.
It makes a whole lot of sense. I just want to bring up Dallas real quick, Alex. I don't know if I don't know if you're interested in laying 240 with the Stars. A win today for Dallas locks it in. They would be the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. They, again, actually still have a shot at the President's Trophy. They are 1 point behind the New York Rangers. Carolina 1 point behind the Rangers as well. But, again, Dallas right now, Alex, not for today, but just at least looking forward. Lou Finocchiaro a month ago told us how much he liked Dallas. We got the price then. Well done. They're going to be the betting favorites to come out of the Western Conference.
Absolutely. And they are in great form right now. I mean, to get to this spot to even be able to try and catch the Rangers is very impressive. And I love their duo goalies they have. Of course, Ottinger, the starting goalie, one of the biggest goalies in the league as well. And then their backup Wedgwood is very good. So they always have him to lean on. I lean to the Stars, but I'm not going to lay that big price today over Seattle.
Let's go to Winnipeg and Colorado. This is a huge game here where this is going to be more likely than not the matchup in round 1 between these two teams. But home ice is on the line here. The teams are tied. Winnipeg actually holds the tiebreaker at the moment. They will not hold the tiebreaker at the end of the day because one of these teams will have to at least be a point ahead of the other, depending on who comes out in front in Denver. $1.50 on the Avs, total 6 here, Alex. Would you look at the total in this game, actually? I know Hellebuck, obviously one of the better goalies in hockey, but we're dealing with the Colorado offense as always.
You know, what's funny, too, is the other day I gave out an under with Winnipeg, and they shut out the Stars. And I was talking about Hellebuck, but he didn't even play. It was Brossoit that had the 3-0 win. So Winnipeg's very good, not only the goalies, but their defensemen as well. I think this total is right here at 6. It's also interesting because Winnipeg has the Avs number this year. They have beaten them 2 times already, 4-2 one game and 6-2 the second one. So a little bit of revenge for Colorado, now hosting the Jets. I would lean to Colorado in this one.
The Avs, again, they're still the most, to me, they're still the most dangerous team when you have that much talent. Question has been the goaltending, obviously, with them. But they're going to be dangerous, as we know. And Colorado will be a nice-sized favorite against Winnipeg in a best of 7. I don't know if I'd want to come back on the Jets in that series. They're playing great hockey right now. It'll be interesting to see how big of a favorite Colorado comes, but I feel like they'll be a nice-sized favorite.
I think that's pretty safe to say.
Against Winnipeg. Rest of the day, Alex, I'll open the floor to you here because we have 13 games with 26 teams involved here today.
Very interesting one with Tampa Bay and Washington because Washington is still in the race somehow here. These two have split so far this year. Tampa Bay won the first one 2-1, and then the Capitals won on February 22nd, 5-3. So I do think they have a lot to play for there at home. No real strong play, but I do lean to the over here, which is surprising. But we know the Lightning have been an over team for quite some time. So I do like that one. And then my favorite, and I want to bring up too, because we have the Red Wings that are still playing for a spot as well. They are not eliminated yet. They're playing in Toronto. But what Austin Matthews is doing is incredible. He has a goal streak going, 7 games, 9 goals. He also has a point streak, 13 games of 24 points.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty
Very
good. The Leafs did lose to the Devils the other night at home, so it'll be interesting to see what type of effort we get from Toronto. Right now, again, in the East, it's pretty simple. Boston and Florida are still duking it out for the Atlantic Division crown. Boston with a game in hand and a 1-point lead. So Boston, of course, the favorite to win that division. Boston is in Pittsburgh tonight in what is a gigantic game for both of these teams. The Penguins are clinging to a 1-point lead over both of the teams you just mentioned. 1-point lead over Washington, who is an underdog tonight, and then a 1-point lead over Detroit, who is also an underdog tonight. So all these teams dogs here in this one, Alex, needing the game. Also, the Flyers, who I should not forget, are in action today against New Jersey. They are a small favorite in that one, and they are also 1 point back. So this race for the final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference, all jumbled mess, as we've talked about for the better portion of a few weeks now.
You're right. And it's kind of surprising. I feel like usually we have our playoffs pretty much set, but these last 3 or 4 games are very meaningful, especially in the Eastern Conference here. No play for me with the Boston-Pittsburgh. I do have the Bruins a little bit higher than what the line is. I have a minus 145 even on the road, but I don't fault anyone for taking that plus money and how the Penguins are playing. I lean to the under, though, because I do think it'll be more of a defensive matchup. We have Allmark going for the Bruins and Tristan Jarry, who has been playing very good for Pittsburgh. So 2 really good goalies in that one, and Boston is on a nice little under streak, 6 in a row in that one. You want to go to my favorite in the West?
Go for it.
You already kind of teed it up for me with Vancouver going to Edmonton. So this is a really good revenge spot for the Oilers. So I love Edmonton here today at home. They have lost 3 times to the Canucks this year. It was a much different team. They had a different coach at the time that they have played. So the last game that they played was November 6th. So I like Edmonton in this one. I like how they're playing. Remember, we still don't have McDavid, but that hasn't really seemed to be a problem for them. A lot of guys have been stepping up. Demko is practicing. I can't see them starting him yet, right? I would think that they would want to wait until the playoffs, make sure that he is fully healthy, but you can keep an eye out for that. But I laid the minus 140 with the Oilers. I might even do a little bit of the puck line to get that plus 175.
Oilers right now entering today are 3 points behind with a game in hand against Vancouver. A win today for Edmonton, like Alex likes here today, would put them in a position where they play the Sharks and the Coyotes their next 2 games. A real opportunity to actually steal the division away from Vancouver, a division that Vancouver has led the whole season.
Correct.
And also, too, it would also really change the way that at least I look at the Western Conference playoffs, because I was kind of geared up to be ready to bet the LA Kings against Edmonton if we got that series, because LA would have just been a monstrous underdog in that series. And the way that the Kings play is historically given Edmonton fits. You could also, again, end up with a VGK Edmonton series. We've talked about that, how Vegas has played Edmonton very well in the postseason. There are a lot of interesting angles that could come from this if Edmonton ends up winning the division. Even though right now, if they were to win the division, the Edmonton most likely draw would be Nashville. I would have no idea what to do with that series personally if we got that.
It would be very tough because Nashville has been one of the hottest teams in hockey. But Edmonton, to me, is kind of like the Avs to you. I just think there is so much talent. They are dangerous at any point, and I like the way that they are playing right now. I'm glad you brought up the playoffs as well. Another reason why I like the Oilers in this spot is because I think this is such an important game for them and their mentality going into the playoffs, knowing that they had 1 win over the Canucks and that they can beat them if they were to face them again later on. They are playing on a back-to-back night too. I didn't bring this up either, but so they got a point yesterday, Edmonton. They did lose in overtime to the Arizona Coyotes, but they sat their starting goalie in Stuart Skinner, and he will be playing tonight.
Alex, before we see our friend Vinny Magliulo in a few moments, baseball today. There is 1 game already going. The Yankees and the Guards rained out last night. No score, inning and a half in. I will say this, baseball-wise today, the only thing that even remotely popped, which scares me, was the over in the Mets in the Royals game. But I'm probably just going to steer clear. That Manaea has been awesome so far for the Mets. But Marchand feels like a good matchup for the Met offense. I don't know if I want to lay a run line with New York. Again, the Mets are as high as $1.67 in the market. So the market does like the Mets, who are playing a little bit better right now.
Yes, they are.
And also, too, we have I will ask you this. Washington and Oakland are playing each other. Oakland, of course, last night won on a walk-off.
Yes.
Would you take $1.30 with the A's at home against a team that is a bottom feeder in Washington tonight? Mackenzie Gore does go for the Nats, so it is one of their higher looked at pitchers. And I will be honest with you, Boyle, who's pitching for the A's, before this morning, I did not know who he was.
Well, and the A's have they've squeaked out a few wins here, but you do need to watch out who they have on the mound because they do have a few really good pitchers that have been great for them. So I don't really know a whole lot about him either, but there were a few pitchers that I was very interested in today and some games, and that's starting with Philadelphia.
Sure.
They are at home. I think I'm going to play them in the first 5 here because Turnbull has been very good for them. In his first 2 starts, 11 innings pitched, 0 ERA. So don't want to have to deal with the bullpens. I know the Pirates have been really good, but I'm thinking that's a good first 5 play.
Pirates beat them last night. Marco Gonzalez against Spencer Turnbull, the pitching matchup in that one. Yeah, I've no feel for me at all in that game. So that's a total steer clear. One other one that I will bring up that starts at the top of the hour. The market loves the Tigers today with Kenta Maeda. Be careful. All I'll say. Be careful with that one. That one's dropped 20 cents this morning from plus 123 on the opener to plus 103 on Detroit.
Is he going? Because I thought I saw another pitcher there.
I have Maeda listed right now. I'll have to double check that during the break, but
yeah, well,
I will say it would not shock me if it's not Maeda based off the way that pricing has dipped. Last night we got the great pitching matchup there in Detroit. All right, we'll take a break. When we get back, Vinny Magliulo joins us next. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style Paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White's here. And joining us, our guy, Vincenzo.
What's up, kids?
Good morning.
What's going on?
Good morning. Oh, we're
Happy Masters Saturday.
yes.
Let's start there, actually.
Yes.
I want to start there. Scotty Scheffler was obviously a big favorite coming in. Chris actually came in, talked to us before the show yesterday. He even elevated the price a little bit on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Took a few bets, but nothing too crazy. And here he is in a three-way tie heading to the weekend with Bryson DeChambeau and Max Homa.
Yeah. And again, Masters, let's kind of recount it here. The most wagered golf event of the year.
Yep.
I mean, of any, especially the majors, right? And I think a lot's got to do with the familiarity, the tradition, obviously, of the Masters. But people are familiar with it because it's at the same course every year.
Mm-hmm.
And we put it up for, oh my gosh, a better part of a year. So it has that much more time, more props. I'll tell you this, yeah, Scheffler, some money on him, but not a negative to the house. No surprise, Tiger Woods, sentimental bet. We actually needed Tiger to make the cut for this event. He was the no was a 6-5 favorite.
Got there easily,
and
yeah.
You talk that again. I go back to the familiarity aspect of it. Nobody knows this course better than Tiger, but we'll still never get all that money back from when he was destroying the course, the tour, and sports books. Back in the late '90s and the 2000s. But
Yeah, Vinny, because you
Yep.
guys opened even money on the yes for him to make the cut, right?
Yeah, it was
Somewhere around there.
The no was a $1.20 favorite, and they bet it all the way. I think it was almost as high as $1.40. So 35-40.
Yeah.
So Tiger did draw, which again he draws every. And here's the thing: the bet's on him to win the tournament now, and again, from 125 to 1 all the way, about 60. It's more sentimental, and it's and if anybody's got $100 or that they're sprinkling on, there's always a ticket on Tiger just because, so more sentimental. Wyndham Clark drew some money and he opened 50, so not terrible. But, Wyndham Clark,
of course, U.S. Open
draw.
champion.
Right.
Yeah. And then Brian Harmon at 100 to 1.
Yeah, that didn't work.
No, did not.
That
They
did
can't
not
all
work.
win it.
Yeah, Brian. I will say we're gonna look back. Brian Harmon, Open Champion of the Year a year ago, in runaway fashion. No
Yeah.
less. A
Yeah.
year ago is one of the more perplexing results in a major in a while. And not that this besmirch Harmon, who was a very, very consistent good golfer, but that was one that was out of left field last year across the pond.
Fresh set of head-to-heads, though.
Yep,
So we
for
did
today.
do
Yep.
head-to-heads for the entire tournament and then on a daily basis. So there are plenty of head-to-heads out there. I don't know if you two got to look at
I
any of
didn't
it.
bet anything.
Alex, did you get involved with any of the Masters props?
Well, Jeff asked me yesterday how many more Masters bets I was going to make, and I said, hopefully no more. So I think I'm just going to – I think I'm good. I got all my bets in.
Okay.
Just see how it works out for me
Here's a
on
little
Sunday.
sentimental one, speaking of. Phil Mickelson
Yes.
today against Tiger Woods. I think Tiger's drawing money. So Mickelson was $1.25 favorite head-to-head against Tiger. Plus 105 on Tiger.
That feels right.
Yeah, but I'm just saying Tiger. They'll bet against Mickelson and on Tiger.
So is that what it is at now?
Just for today.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have the.
I would lean to Mickelson because
Yeah?
Tiger played 23 holes
I-
yesterday.
I think you're right, and he's still got that. Overall, Mickelson's healthier, right? So, but again, I think what we've seen in recent years is Mickelson always drew interest, but after the whole live thing, it was almost like he became a villain. Like
Yeah,
everybody,
you're right.
he's not the only one on the tour, but they bet against him, especially in this one when it gets if you talk about more sentiment, definitely more sentiment towards Tiger.
Definitely. And now that he made the cut, I
Sure.
can see why people are thinking he's going to finish through at least.
Yeah.
He's got a shot.
Vinny, I want to move to baseball real
Yeah.
quick. The news this morning that we haven't talked about yet, but at least wanted to bring it in when you came in. Spencer Strider's season is over. He's having Tommy John. So the Braves, it was the two-headed monster going into the year, the Dodgers and the Braves.
In the National
And
League, yeah.
I would even argue for all baseball, but especially for the NL.
Yankees and Stros.
Yeah,
still,
Astros are off to a horrible start.
They are, but
Yankees look good. But I'll just ask you this, because we asked Dan Zimborski about this yesterday a little bit of if Strider doesn't come back, how do you look at him? And for the Braves, I mean, look, they have had some pitching issues early this season to begin the year, and now you lose the guy who was the Cy Young favorite going into the year in the National League. I mean, look, even with how great that lineup is, this is a very alarming prospect of going through a whole year without your best guy.
No question. And the Mets took 2 out of 3 this week.
Yeah, that also should be alarming too.
Well, it is, but but here's the thing. To your point, first of all, the Braves have a solid farm system.
Oh, they
number
sure
one.
do.
Secondly, it's still very early in the season, and you don't want to overreact. I mean, if you think back to when the Nationals won the World Series that year, and they were like 16, 20 games under 500. It was not quite at the All-Star break. It was a little bit before the All-Star break. They were significantly out of it. The thing that with baseball you have to be mindful of, you can't overreact too early to teams on a roll and teams that are struggling, right? Look at, the Pirates. Now, Pirates, listen, good, solid team, young team. But you have to ask yourself, are they gonna be able to sustain it? Probably better suited to do so in that division compared to the NL East with the Phillies, the Braves. Certainly compared to the West with the Dodgers and the D-backs. So, and conversely, the Mets, who got off to an awful start. I mean, the Mets win today; they're at 500.
Well, yeah, one
right?
game under now.
So, and their pitching's been more than serviceable. But I think more surprising, we knew that their bullpen was probably, they had a lot of depth in the bullpen. It was the starting pitching that was the question mark. So, circling back to the Braves, don't want to overreact just yet, because the other thing is, don't forget, they'll probably make some kind of move because of the depth of that farm system. Then a trade may be in the offing as well, and in advance of the trade deadline too, which we've got plenty of time to get to. So, you look at these, and from a futures perspective, always bear that in mind, with that the length of the baseball season can lend itself to some really good prices. Again, I'll go back to the Pirates. If you think that the Pirates can contend, particularly in that division, and you grab them early, and you still want to get a price on them, if they hang around, you're gonna be in good shape.
The last day of the NBA season's tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes.
And we went through it earlier in the show. There are a lot of scenarios. There are a lot of things that can change seeding. The only seeds we know in the East are the 9 and the 10.
Mm-hmm.
We know Atlanta's going to go to Chicago next week.
Right.
And we know Boston is the 1 seed. We don't know anything else in the Eastern Conference in the way of seeding at the moment.
No, the only thing we know is everybody played yesterday. Nobody's playing today.
And everybody's
playing tomorrow. So yeah. I from a scheduling standpoint, whatever. The other thing is who's playing. I mean, because there are teams tomorrow. You're going to see some lineups tomorrow that will probably be the first time this year that those lineups are in existence, right? When you think about it, because there are teams that have been, the seeding, as you mentioned, has been determined, and so if you think that there was load management during the course of the season, where do you see some of the lineups tomorrow? Now, again, they're all Americans too. I go back to let's tie it into when people say, when there's a really dominant college basketball team.
I'm surprised you brought this up on your own here,
What?
Vinny.
No, it's true. I have to bring it up. So tomorrow's going to be an example of where you're going to see some surprising lineups, right? Don't think for 1 minute that those lineups that you see tomorrow would be an underdog against the best college team that you've seen. Call it Connecticut this year, okay? These are all American. These are pros. These are men. And so for in advance of next year.
Oh yeah.
Okay? Let's make sure we have that clear.
Do you know how you're looking in the futures market with NBA?
Yeah, I think actually pretty decent. I mean, we got ahead of the Celtics, particularly in the East. A little bit of the Knicks, I think. We took some money on the Knicks, and the Knicks have had a decent season. How they're going to fare in the playoffs, I don't know, because as they've gotten there in the last couple of years, they've disappointed, although I think they are better this year. So I think there's some I don't think there's anything out there, Alex, like there was, let's say, with the Suns a few years ago. Kings, I think, too, in the West, some liability with the Kings. But overall, nothing that's, I think, glaring out there.
Kind of like we're talking about with Tiger. You seen some Lakers money with people jumping in with LeBron?
What's interesting with the Lakers is, first of all, this has always been a Laker town, as I've maintained it, and it will remain a Laker town. And it'll be more business if the Lakers, whenever they're relevant and if they can get into the get further into the playoffs. But it's also been the Warriors have been extremely popular in recent years with their success too. The question is, are are either or both of these teams going to be. I don't think they can both get to a 7-game series. I mean, and we kind of, from a business perspective, you'd want to see that.
Right.
So, but there's always more interest / betting when the Lakers are involved and advancing.
So with Denver losing last night to San Antonio inexplicably, they're gonna fall to, more likely than not, to the 3. Okay, so defending champs fall to 3, playing whoever gets that 6 seed. We'll just call it, for the sake of this, New Orleans.
Okay.
You end up with 2 inexperienced teams as the 1 and the 2 seed in Oklahoma City and Minnesota.
In Minnesota, yeah.
Let's say the Suns get the 7. Let's just, you know what? It doesn't matter. Either the Lakers or the Warriors, okay, for the sake of this. Are we going to get a scenario here where the 8 seed is favored over a 1, or a 7 is favored over a 2 in a best of 7, or at least, like, let's say it's Minnesota, Phoenix, like Minnesota's like a minus 115 favorite over the Suns in a best of 7?
Good point. Good question. You don't want to over adjust, but it's a scenario that could very well be simply because those teams have not been there, as you mentioned, and there's a big difference. And what's the great equalizer in the NBA postseason? It's the fact that it's not one and done, right? So it's a different dynamic, and there's no load management in the playoffs, right? I mean, of course, unless a team is up 3-0 in a series later on. But to your point, Jeff, is it possible? Yeah, it's or certainly a tighter line than you might expect. You can't, from our side of the counter, I would never just look at it and say, okay, this is a number 1 seed going against a number 8 seed, and here it is just because. It's a whole different dynamic, and we know this: the Lakers, right? Everybody's going to play. It's not going to be a situation like the regular season where it was either Davis and LeBron James, either or we didn't see them a lot, right? But when you did, it's obviously a completely different team. Now, but building forward, not saying that Minnesota, for instance, can't, and OKC can't advance and they can't win, but this is also part of their development, and it's not going to be as easy as just looking at seeding. And so I would, for bettors out there, bear that in mind. And if you do see some veteran teams at a plus price, they're going to draw some money for sure.
That's a very interesting point that Jeff made. And not only could they be, smallest of dogs or even favored, but we could see the 7 and 8 advance out of that first round.
Right, you could, and you know what? The thing about it is too, you may see, typically the first game of a series correlates, particularly the money line correlates to the price of the series price, right? That's going to be skewed this year because of what we're exactly why we're talking about it.
Yeah, well, this is why the discussion earlier in the week was Denver's going to be the 1 seed. It's probably going to be a pretty easy coast for Denver, even with, a potential matchup with the Lakers or the Warriors. They match up really well with the Lakers, as we saw in the playoffs a year ago and in the regular season this year. Golden State, if Golden State ends up making it to the bracket, I just don't think they have anything left in the tank.
It's a good point. And the depth-wise, it's they don't have the same.
It's just very hard for me to see them upsetting. All right, maybe if they draw Oklahoma City, maybe Curry goes off for a 7-game series, they pull an upset. They're not going to win a second series. I just don't see
challenging, no question.
But it's very interesting out west now with Denver losing that game and probably going to the 3 makes it a little bit different in the way you at least have to look at the postseason as opposed to going through 52-80 for everyone, which Denver would be a relatively nice size favorite against anyone with home court. Without home court for 2 series potentially makes it a little bit harder for them to get back.
It does, but there's where the veterans and the fact that they've got probably the best overall player in the league, right? When you think about it. I mean, who's the matchup? who can match up with him. I mean, it's so I just think it's difficult. The fact that it's difficult for the opponents, it's an advantage too for Denver. Was yesterday a wake up call? Yeah, I would say yeah, but they've shown that they can go on the road and win. So that's the other part you have to take into account. Who has shown that they can go on the road and win? And certainly you want to be at home, from a travel perspective and things like that in the playoffs. But sometimes, that veteran element on the road, that's where teams galvanize and get it done. There are teams that they don't really care about that element. They get down to business, and this is a team that we saw a year ago do what they did, and there's a reason that I think the title, particularly the Western title, still has to go through them, even if they're not the 1 seed.
One last thing before we get out of here on the NBA. Eastern Conference, we know Boston's getting the 1. We know that they're going to be odds on to win the Eastern Conference, especially with the injury to Giannis going into the postseason.
Rightfully so, yeah.
I'll just ask you this. Let's say Milwaukee gets Giannis back, but they have fallen to the 4 seed, which is in play for sure. With a loss tomorrow and a New York and Cleveland win tomorrow, Milwaukee would fall to the 4, which we already had the discussion earlier. I actually think it might help them, at least in round 1, because they would play Orlando, who I perceive to be pretty clearly the weakest team in the field in the Eastern Conference of the projected top 8. Would there be any difference? Let's say Giannis is able to come back for a Boston series in round 2 after sitting in round 1. Would there be a difference in the price of how it would have been as opposed to if they met in the East final with a healthy Giannis? Would there be a difference if them meeting around earlier? Again, if Giannis isn't healthy, all bets are off, obviously.
Well,
but this is with the assumption Giannis is back for a potential round 2 against Boston.
So a round 2 price compared to
a conference
final price. Well, again, I think it depends also on, first of all, if they get to the Eastern Conference Finals without him, then you know that the supporting cast has been solid.
Correct.
Right?
I mean, Damian Lillard and everyone else has been awesome.
How easy or difficult how easy did the Celtics get there, or did they have more challenges than people had anticipated, being the odds-on favorites, right? So you have to take that into consideration. And if Giannis is not back until the conference finals, then the injury is more serious than thought, right? So he's not 100%. So Jeff, to sit here and say what's the difference in the price? Yeah, you figure that it's how they get there. And in the case of the Bucks, how the supporting cast or the rest of the cast performed, and you have to anticipate, they performed real well because they got to the conference finals. And what did the Celtics look like? Did they do it in dominating fashion? And then you say, Giannis is back. What's the difference in the series price? Is it 50 cents? Is it 80 cents? It's hard to say because it depends on how they get there. Oh, and by the way, are there any other injuries along the way for either team that could impact that as well? So, but certainly, those are factors that we're certainly going to look at.
Well, we'll have a lot of fun breaking it down because the next show for us is Tuesday. We'll know the matchups. Steve Jones joining us on Tuesday?
Yes, he is.
Yes, that'll be good. 9 a.m. on Tuesday to break down.
Yeah, and then, of course, the NHL finishes, Thursday, right?
Yep. We'll have all the next weekend.
And then next week.
Next Saturday will be great. We'll be able to break down 8 playoff games between the two leagues, more likely than not, on that Saturday. And we'll even have prices for Sunday as well.
That's right.
For those games coming up next weekend. Vinny, pleasure as always.
Good to be with both of you.
Thank you, Vinny.
Alex, good work. Drew Dog, Sean, I'm not going to say it. I'll wait till after the show. We'll see you next time. It's Tuesday. We're back Tuesday at 9 a.m. for Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.